the good old summertime, in the good old summertime.
Welcome to part 2 of this short leg episode on Clem Hill's 188 against England in Melbourne in 1898. My name is Tom Ford. We pick up the story as Hugh Trumble joins Clem Hill in the middle, hoping to salvage something of Australia's top-order collapse. Utilising various bowlers now, Stoddart was desperate to break the steadying partnership. Hill reached his 80 as Trumble climbed patiently to 17. Australia 6 for 120. Hill began carting Hayward and Briggs to the boundary. It was off the bowling of Hayward that Hill particularly took a liking to. The Argus recalls, "In the same over off Hayward, Hill placed one to the onside and scored his 100. A burst of applause all round the ground was kept up for some time, several of the Englishmen joining in the cheers. Hill was batting 2 hours 49 minutes for his runs." Hill later said, "I must confess that I was pleased to see the 3 figures opposite my name, because I had never before had that success in a test match. It was some time before I recovered from the applause." The partnership was not broken as the Australians reached the tea break at 4 o'clock. The total was 151 for the loss of 6 wickets. Hill not out on 107 and Trumble supporting him on 20. Hill reminisced that, "Hughie and I had changed the complexion of the game. I remember when I reached my century, somebody called out in a stentorian voice to McLaren, 'Hello, Archie, the kangaroo is still hopping.'" Again, it was during the tea break that the experience of Trumble shone through, keeping Hill in his place. Hill picks up the story. "At the tea adjournment we were still together. I had a shower and changed into dry clothes, and felt as fit as when I started. I mentioned to Trumble as we were coming out that I was feeling refreshed and added, 'I think I shall have a go at them now.' Hughie looked at me very seriously out of the corner of his eye and said, 'You young devil, you have to stop right there. Go along as you have been doing.' And so Hill did. On resuming, Stoddart joined the bowling efforts, but to little avail as Hill continued on his merry way. Hill got him away, stated the Argus, with the pull that scored him so many runs this innings. With a nice easy off drive he put Richardson to the fence, bringing 170 up, and his own score to 120. The next one was a bit short, and again the cheers rang out, for Hill hit it with his usual certainty and force to the on for 4. Such was the situation for the English that when the score reached 197, the wicketkeeper Bill Storer had a bowl, with Frank Druce replacing him behind the wicket. His first delivery to Hill was a full toss, and Hill stepped forward and swept it to the boundary to take the total past 200. Shortly after, Hill reached his 150, and Trumble even opened his shoulders to cart Stoddart to the boundary in consecutive deliveries. The Melbourne crowd were full of voice as the Hill-Trumble partnership also reached 150. At around 5 o'clock, a cool change was welcomed, not least of all by the tired English bowlers who, having had the Australians struggling at 6 for 58, were now facing the possibility of chasing a sizable total. With Australia on 223, the breakthrough was finally realised when Storer, the wicketkeeper, bowled what Hill later described as one of the worst balls bowled during that day, and Trumble smacked it in the air to long on, and a magnificent diving catch was taken by Jack Mason. Trumble dismissed for 46, an effort he achieved in 2 hours and 46 minutes. Australia now 7 wickets down. The partnership between Clem Hill and Hugh Trumble was a remarkable one. Having come together when the team was on 58, they combined for 165 runs, of which Hill made 118. At the time, it was the highest 7th wicket partnership in all Test cricket, and to this day remains the highest 7th wicket partnership in the long history of Ashes cricket. Australia's keeper JJ Kelly joined Hill at the centre late on day 1 and joined in the now free-flowing stroke making. To much consternation from discerning onlookers, Stoddart had yet given Wainwright a chance to bowl, when finally he was brought on to replace the tiring Hearn. Loud cheers rung out again as Hill surpassed Joe Darling's score of 178, hit in the previous Adelaide Test match. Kelly brought the total to 270 with a slashing off-drive off Wainwright, and shortly after, the batsman reached stumps on an eventful first day. Australia was 7 down for 275, Clem Hill not out on 182, and Kelly was 22 not out. As he walked back to the pavilion, Hill recalled the tremendous reception he received from crowd and opposition alike. The Englishmen were very generous in their congratulations. I always had a preference for fast bowling. Tom Richardson told me afterwards that he seemed to have become a fast bowler for my special enjoyment. JT Hearn, Richardson's opening bowling partner, later confided to Neville Cardus that I never saw finer batting in my life than Clem Hill's at Melbourne. Clem had batted for just shy of 6 hours in stifling hot conditions. It was a near faultless innings, with only a single difficult chance offered in his 60s when the faintest of nicks touched the outstretched glove of Storer. Not yet 21, he had stamped his reputation as cricket's wunderkind, a boy wonder and the future of Australian cricket. As was customary a century ago, a rest day was scheduled for the Sunday, much to the relief of Hill, who used it to recover. As he later wrote, "On the Monday I added 6 more runs and was then caught off Hearn in the slips. In the next innings I went for a duck. Such is cricket." Indeed, Hill's great innings came to a close early on the official second day of the Test when he nicked a ball to Captain Stoddart in the slips off Hearn. His total of 188 was, at the time, the highest Test score ever recorded at the Melbourne Cricket Ground, surpassing Stoddart's 173 on the previous tour, and the second highest Test score in Australia behind Sid Gregory's 201 in Sydney in 1894. Perhaps most impressive of all, it remains to this day the highest Test score ever by a batsman under the age of 21, eclipsing efforts from other notable batsmen such as Neil Harvey, Hanif Mohammed, George Headley and Don Bradman. Australia were finally dismissed for 323, a far cry from the disastrous 6 for 58 they found themselves in on day one. In reply, England struggled, all out for 174, not a single individual score more than 30. Ernie Jones taking 4 wickets, and Stoddart's team were asked to follow on. A much better effort from the tourists saw them reach 263 in their second innings, a lead of 115 runs. Ranji and McLaren scoring 55 and 45 apiece. Charlie McLeod and Joe Darling scored most of Australia's runs in their chase, and as noted above, Clem Hill out for a blob. Australia won by 8 wickets and took an unassailable series lead of 3 matches to 1. The formality of the 5th and final Test saw Australia win by 6 wickets, Joe Darling stamping his great series as a batsman with a match-winning 160 in his team's second innings. Australia completed their series win 4 matches to 1. But it was Hill's masterful and near-faultless innings in Melbourne when his team was up against the wall which won the series for the Australians and cemented his position as Australia's great batsman of the future. Neville Cardus, who had moved to Australia at the outbreak of the Second World War, wrote in 1940, against the backdrop of anti-German sentiment, that Clem Hill's 188 at Melbourne wrote a precious and inspiring page in the book of cricket. A book, by the way, which we'll read long after many a more pretentious book, Mein Kampf, for example, had been relegated to the dustbin of mortal history. Neville was only 10 at the time of Hill's innings, and of course on the other side of the world. A more accurate description comes from Tom Horan, writing as Felix for the Australasian, who witnessed Hill's heroics and wrote, "In the annals of Australian cricket there is no batting performance to surpass that by Clem Hill today. It was magnificent, unique. Like another Coriolanus, he might fairly say, "I alone did it." The more I think over his display, the more I am struck by its extraordinary merit. Indeed, it is due to him to say that his innings will rank as historical. You may take my word for it that Clem Hill's innings on the 29th of January 1898 will be talked of when the smallest boy who saw it will be white with the snows of time. In 2013, writers Dave Wilson and Patrick Faraday, the latter having been a guest on this podcast as the biographer of Wilfred Rhodes, put together a book which compiled a list of the great innings of the previous 140 years of Test cricket. While such a compendium has been attempted many times before, this approach was unique. They attempted to rate each innings according to 10 criteria. The 10 factors were listed as the size of the individual score, the conditions of the wicket and weather, the bowling attack, the percentage of the score in relation to the team's score, how many chances the batsman offered, the speed in which he scored, the impact on the overall series and the impact on the match, intangibles and compatibility. When considering all these factors, Clem Hill's 188 in Melbourne was ranked number 6 overall. That is the 6th greatest individual score in the history of Test cricket. He was the only cricketer from the golden age of cricket to feature in the top 10, the highest ranked Australian, and his 188 bettered any innings from Don Bradman, whose highest ranked innings came in at number 9. Such a list is of course objective, but the science and detail taken to rank them provides stimulating food for thought. Thanks for listening to this short leg episode on the 20-year-old Clem Hill's 188 against England in Melbourne in 1898. If you're enjoying the podcast and wish to donate, visit buymeacoffee.com/Golden Age of Cricket or find the link in the episode description. My name is Tom Ford. Until next time, it's bye for now.